it is in a managed state. The entire site is safe and intensely monitored. I'd argue it's probably the most intensely monitored landfill in the country, if not the, certainly very close. You've got 24/7 monitoring of what's going on at include air, to include water.
That was Russ Naki from yesterday's show. He is the Vice President of Communications for Republic Services. To talk the other side of the conversation, Dawn Chapman. Dawn, you are a resident of the area?
I am.
You also started a group called Just Moms STL.
Yes, I'm one of the co-founders.
And you've been on this show 75 times. You've been on this show numerous times. With you is Representative Bill Otto. Bill, you are a representative in Jefferson City. Now you're running for U.S. Congress. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What is your district?
I represent the 70th House District right now in the Missouri House, and that encompasses the landfill issue.
You are a Democrat, and if you win your primary, which, are you the only opponent in that primary?
Oh, for the Senate race or the congressional race?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. We've cleared a primary. I'm the only Democrat.
You're the only Democrat, and you will be facing Ann Wagner. That's her district, Ann Wagner's district.
I assume she hasn't announced, but there's no reason to consider she wouldn't run.
Right, so the odds are that you will be facing her come a year from now. All right, so Russ Naki was on yesterday. Lots of things going on. We just heard the clip saying it is the most monitored site. It is safe, and there's nothing to worry about. What do you say, Dawn Chapman?
You know, the most well-monitored patients in a hospital are those in critical condition. And I would argue that 2 weeks ago when we had a giant brush fire on the site wasn't well-monitored, and they weren't in control of that.
Mm-hmm. You heard the interview yesterday. You heard what he had to say. He said at the end of the interview that this fire in this landfill will burn itself out long before it ever gets to the nuclear waste. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts when you hear that?
Well, I don't know that it'll ever burn itself out. Some of these some of these fires, I understand, go for decades. Whether it burns itself out is irrelevant. I think a statement that it won't reach radioactive waste is probably true. Because they're going to put a barrier. As a fire starts to move and it encroaches into the area that's close to radioactive waste, they have to stop it. It's just no way that they can allow the fire, a smoldering event, whatever you want to call it, to reach your radioactive waste and somehow make that airborne.
So after the interview yesterday, I was thinking about this. I knew you two were coming on to talk about this, and me, whoever gets wrapped up in the burning landfill and the nuclear waste, because we never heard of anything like this. But forget about the fire or the smoldering event for a moment. There is a nuclear waste site where nuclear waste is just sort of left there,
laying on a surface.
Right. So why isn't that being taken care of?
That's our question. You know, I don't deal in probabilities. I'm a mom. But I know that living less than 2 miles away from this site, I'm not comfortable living next to a nuclear waste site where it's sitting on the surface. That is not where I want to raise my kids, and I can't believe it's been left there for 42 years.
How come? Why is this so hard to fix?
I just think it's a failure of the EPA, failure of federal government. Somebody's not put enough pressure on this and kept it exposed to the public for long enough that they get enough public pressure to do it. And even though the EPA has a date that they're going to declare an announcement, even that I don't understand. How do you decide a year or 14, 15 months from now you're going to tell us what you're going to do? Is all that information not available now? With the continuous streaming on of this decision. They had a decision in 2008. They backed off almost immediately.
Right.
And it's not just over public outcry. Had the decision in 2008 been enacted, they'd be peeling that cap back right now because that fire would be encroaching underneath it.
You're a state representative now.
Right.
But you sort of, it seems like everyone's getting the governmental runaround. In just a brilliant runaround. How can it be that in Weldon Springs, which is the same nuclear waste, that's entombed, that's encapsulated, and Coldwater Creek is being sort of cleaned up, and yet this stuff sits and everyone has a debate over whether or not it's good or bad?
You have a company that's pretending that it's something that it's not. They're saying it's barium sulfate. This is the same waste that leaked into Coldwater Creek and made those people sick. You know, why would we be comfortable leaving it out in our neighborhood? It's a broken bureaucracy, but it's also a bully company at this point. And it's really not fair to those of us that live around it.
But I don't understand where are all of the officials, the governor, the attorney general, the county executive, the senators, the congressman, the president. I mean, when you tell people outside of St. Louis there's a burning landfill next to a nuclear waste dump, everyone stops in their tracks and says, how is that possible?
Well, a part of this is I think the Attorney General is doing exactly what the Attorney General should do. The state of Missouri is responsible for rules and regulations on landfills. Republic Services has broken the law for several years now in a row by allowing their emissions and their byproduct from what they're doing from escaping their own property, infecting the surrounding communities. General Koster has always been on top of this. He is suing them. He is doing, but just like any corporate interest, they're trying to protect their bottom line, and General Koster is trying to get them into court to get them to stop invading into the surrounding communities, ruining their homes, and ensuring that the rules and regulations. The difference is that the radioactive waste is under control of the federal government, and the landfill is under control of the rules and regulations of the state of Missouri. So the EPA has dragged their feet on the control of the or doing something about the radioactive waste in that area, and the Attorney General is trying to ensure that the fire never encroaches onto the radioactive waste, of which he has no control whatsoever.
All right. So yesterday, he was on Channel 5 and made the claim, and then he made the claim again yesterday, Russ Naki, that the fire is 2,500 feet or more away from the nuclear waste. Now, you guys are showing a picture of, I guess, Google Maps that shows that the entire landfill isn't 2,500 feet wide.
Right.
No.
And I asked him this, and he says, I'm crazy. The nuclear waste and the fire is 2,500 feet apart.
No, and I called EPA yesterday, and I called the state of Missouri. When we get these facts and figures, we look at Republics too for what it's worth, and we look at the areas where they agree and disagree. Both the state and EPA say that fire, as of yesterday, is 1,000 feet away. Republic is the only one singing a different song when it comes to the distance of the fire from the radioactive waste. Also, he's using the old location of radioactive waste. We now know that the EPA is finding radioactive waste closer to the south area, the area that's burning, than they were a year ago.
Are there any studies that show that the smoke, the stench, whatever's up in the air is actually affecting and or hurting people around the area?
All they have are what's called acute levels, meaning that there's no one thing coming out of that landfill that's at a level high enough to hurt us next week.
Right.
But there's hundreds of chemicals at once at low levels. So we're kind of getting a cocktail if you think about it. And the answer we're getting from every medical person we ask, including the state, is that's chronic exposure. And no, we don't know what that's like. And my response is, okay, well, I've been breathing it in for 5 years, and you're going to say another 5 to 10 years. Am I going to be okay?
Right. The EPA started looking at this site when, Bill Otto?
The EPA has been working on a site for 40 years, or it's been laying there for 40 years.
But they had a 2008 report.
2008 record of decision, yes.
But how long did that report take? Didn't that take years to come?
Years.
And
11.
It took 11 years
Yeah.
to come to the 2008 report, and now they're going to have this other report, their final report in 2016. So we're looking almost 20 years
Right,
of the
absolutely.
EPA studying what to do with this nuclear waste.
Right.
Absolutely. And I want to add a little bit onto this, the issue of what's coming out and how it's affecting, or whether or not it's bad for you. I mean, you could stand at the bus stop for 5 minutes and smell it, and it probably wouldn't hurt you. But if you did it every day for 10 years, I suspect it would have an impact. DePaul Hospital is filtering out the smells. They're filtering it out so it doesn't get inside, and I suspect it's not just only for smell. And can you imagine having your home there, your kids out there, and you've lost the use of your home. You've lost your in the summer. You can't go outside. You can't plan a party because you don't know what it's going to smell like, let alone what's in the air. The idea that Republic Services is now turning against the community, sort of starting a PR campaign against the community, when clearly they've even offered to they've settled lawsuits. They've bought people's noses out in that area And who knows what the long-term effect of that is.
They support an organization that is supporting the idea of not transferring the nuclear waste out of the area. What's the name of the coalition? The Coalition to Keep Us Safe?
Yes.
They admitted yesterday on the show that they're helped start this and fund this. We currently take nuclear waste out of the region by rail today in St. Louis, do we not?
We do. We've moved 1.2 million tons. 27 times the Gateway Arch has left in the past decade.
By rail?
By rail, by specific rail cars designed for this, for a decade plus. We get waste from other states that goes by rail too.
How many incidents of issues have we had with that? Zero. And this group is fighting to not move this away, and or they're also arguing, I guess, they don't want to encapsulate it either, right?
Right.
Because if you encapsulate it, you'd have to move it. And one of the things he said yesterday was, when you move it, it's much more dangerous to move it than it is to sort of leave it right there.
Well, he also said it wasn't very dangerous. So either it is or it is not dangerous.
Right.
If it's dangerous up there, then why leave it there? Or if it's not dangerous, fine, dig it up.
That's Don Chapman along with Bill Otto. Have you tried to move? Have you tried to sell your home?
I have not. It's an ethical dilemma. You know, it's such a mess where we are right now with this. I don't feel like I can actually, in good conscience, sell it to somebody else and pass it on.
How many children do you have?
3.
3. Can you play outside? How bad's the smell?
There's days where we can't. There's days where we can. I mean, you just don't know, like he said. You really don't.
Bill Otto, last thoughts. What do you want people to know about this?
I think it's very clear that Republic Services has no control over what's going on. They'll say in one tone that the fire won't, the fire will never reach radioactive material, and in the next one they say, yeah, as long as a barrier is built or some way to stop it. There is no safety for the community. Everything that's coming out of that landfill now has now suddenly become a PR campaign against the community. We have a company that drives through your neighborhood, half the St. Louis County every morning to collect your trash, but somehow they're going to disparage and go after the moms and the families within the smelling and the reach of this landfill and the odors that are coming out and the threat to reach radioactive material. This has suddenly become a PR campaign for Republic Services against the community.
And the EPA, by the time they make this report, it'll probably be a new administration with a new head of the EPA, and you might have to start all over again.
Absolutely.
Right.
That is Don Chapman and Bill Otto. For people to find out more, Don, where should they go?
They need to go to Facebook, Westlake Landfill, or Just Moms STL, and you can visit our website, stlradwastelegacy.com.
All right, that's Don Chapman, as well as Bill Otto, who is running for the House of Representatives against Ann Wagner, and that is 1 year from yesterday, right? 1 year
a couple
from
of days ago,
yeah. 1 year from this week. All right, Bill Otto, Don Chapman, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
9:22 here, Big 550 KTR.